Good afternoon from Austin, Texas. On behalf of the NMC, I am delighted to welcome you to the NMC Beyond the Horizon. Openness, which includes concepts such as open content, open data, and open resources, along with the notions of transparency and easy access to data information, is becoming highly valued across education, especially higher ed. In this online event, we have 4 higher ed thought leaders joined by our moderator. We'll share insights behind their innovative approaches to openness and give us a peek into what the future holds for its educational use. I'm your host today, Alex Freeman, the Senior Director of Membership and Special Projects at the NMC. I'm joined by the NMC's Gordon Jackson, who is here to assist on technical support. Please feel free to ask a question via the Q&A if you have any problems or have any questions in general. So before we get started, as I mentioned, if you have any questions, you can type it into the Q&A and we'll work to answer those live as much as we can. Or if you have a specific question to a panelist, you have the opportunity of doing that directly. The other thing is, I believe you have the option, some people have the option of recording this video, and I'll also be recording it and cleaning it up and sending it back to all folks that have registered for this program after the program. So this information won't be lost. Let's see. If you're on Twitter, so are we. We're at NMC.org, and the hashtag for today's event is hashtag NMCHZ. That's NMCHZ. Okay, now on to the moderator of today's program, Erin Manny, Senior Instructional Designer and Project Management for the COAT Community of Practice at Open SUNY. Take it away, Erin.
Thank you, Alex. Welcome, everyone, to today's discussion. I'm excited to be able to participate with you. As Alex said, I am part of Open SUNY's Center for Online Teaching Excellence. My role is really to connect our community of online practitioners within our system and beyond Open SUNY. I also design opportunities for engagement, collaboration, and networking for our Open SUNY fellows. I'm a bit of what you would call a story catcher in that I kind of see myself collecting success stories of our campuses and finding ways to showcase those and also to collaboratively tackle the challenges that we all face. As an instructional designer, I get to design and deliver professional development training workshops to our 64 SUNY campuses. And so what I'd like to do is really begin with getting to know a little bit about our panelists and what projects they are currently involved with in regard to open resources. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I'm going to start with Jerry, if I could.
Good morning, Erin, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me here. And before my road to ruin in administration for the California State University system, I was a cognitive psychologist at Cal State Long Beach. And now at the Office of the Chancellor, I'm the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic Technology Services. And we provide support for all our libraries, for learning management activities, course redesign activities. And in the area of open education resources, been working in Merlot, the multimedia educational resources for learning and online teaching it'll be 20 years next year. So look forward to sharing lessons that we've learned about open education resources on the panel.
Great, thank you, Jerry. Amy, how about you?
Sure, thank you. Happy to be here. I am Director of Innovation at ISKME, that's the Institute for the Study of Knowledge Management and Education in lovely Half Moon Bay, California. I have an original background in media, study, video production, interactive user experience, and have been at ISKME for 10 years, starting as the founding director of our digital public library, OER Commons, and helped design collaboration and engagement projects with faculty as well as in higher ed, and work in both our research and development strand, business and partnerships, and project management in open education resources and open practice.
Terrific, thank you. Ina?
Okay, sorry, I'm fine. So, hi, good evening from Germany. So it's already evening here. I'm happy to be here and tell you a little bit about about myself. I'm working a lot on open science. So I'm acting professor for open science at the Hanover University of Applied Sciences and Arts, and also researching in a library at the Open Science Lab. And so I'm working a lot with open book projects, doing open educational resources together with students and also with the whole community. And I'm a mentor of the Wikimedia Germany Fellow Program for Open Science, for instance. And I'm a lot working in this context for helping students to be more open to open their work, and also for encouraging them to already interact with the community. That's very important for me, and yeah, that's my work actually. Also in the context of research information and opening, so linked open data for research information, doing this. Okay, that's in short and brief.
Thank you, Ina. And Kim, could you tell us about yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Kim Scalzo. I'm the Executive Director of Open SUNY here at the State University of New York. I've been involved in this field of online learning and continuing education within higher education for almost 25 years. And it's been kind of exciting to see it all open up, if I can use that, that play on words. Open SUNY is a university-wide program which serves all of our campuses, and we really serve as a lead entity driving the strategy for online learning at the system level, but also supporting our campuses and their online learning goals. So we have several projects within Open SUNY and in support of broader SUNY initiatives around open. The name of Open SUNY was chosen specifically because it's really about increasing access to education across the system, and we see online learning as a really important way to do that, and a lot of opportunities there. So a lot of our projects and initiatives are around what we can do from the online learning perspective to promote openness, and how within our online programs we can make sure that we're leveraging the power of OER materials, and as we're creating assets, that they are openly licensed and available and shareable. So, and we've actually done some significant things like put funding behind some of the initiatives to help our campuses achieve the goals that we have. So, so that's a little bit about who I am and what we're doing with Open SUNY, and I'm sure we'll get into much more details about some of the projects and initiatives as we go through the panel. So thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Kim, and that provides a really good segue. We'd like to talk a little bit about how open education resources are becoming institutionalized. And I wonder, Amy, if maybe you could start us off with that.
Sure, Erin, thanks. Well, as researchers, we're constantly looking for indications that OER and open are ideas and mindsets, and not just content, that are spreading in awareness, being adopted, and having impact, especially at the institutional level. We're seeing that policies are changing, and this isn't a fast change, it's a long time coming. But colleges and universities are certainly individually, if not at the state level, adopting open textbooks and some open policies, initially to save students money, perhaps. And then later on thinking about what is the impact to teaching and learning. And that's where we spend a lot of our efforts in my work. And we're also seeing that there are governments, as well as education institutions, that are deciding to use OER and to make a national policy that public money spent on educational materials should be open, should make open and available, openly accessible materials. So there are some top-down policy changes, and that's happening, even if it's not as fast as all of us would like to see. One of the big changes in the last year has been in the US, the federal government effort, Go Open, really in the K-12 space, but this has galvanized a good number of states and districts to make commitments to open, which is a new thing. We've been working sort of bottom up for teachers to take on OER and do these discovery and remix roles themselves, but when it's at the institutional level and there's district and state buy-in, that really changes what teachers are able to do, and also could open up the door for professional development programs, which is really, I think, is what is going to make it take hold much greater. And one of the things that we're working on is to help faculty that are interested in OER to start to do that themselves. One of the projects we just started recently with OpenStax and their open textbooks is to help their community find a centralized place to remix the already available open textbooks. So, you know, if communities of practice have a place to go as well, that can further institutionalize the effort.
Absolutely, thank you. So really bringing awareness, adopting the policies, and also providing the resources. So you bring up a lot of great points to get us started. Kim, I wonder if you could talk about that. As SUNY is a distributed organization, how is SUNY working to institutionalize OER?
Yep, thanks, Erin. So we started a few years ago I mentioned that we have some funding opportunities for campuses. So as we started talking about OER and wanting to really encourage and promote campus adoption of OER, we put out some grants. We have a grant program called the Innovative Instruction Technology Grant Program, where we have provided over the last 5 years $3.5 million worth of funding, and a good chunk of those projects have been around OER and just kind of what does it mean? What does open mean in the SUNY context? So one of the most successful projects that came out of that was our Open SUNY Textbooks project, which provided a process and mechanism for publishing open textbooks. And we have several, I want to say like maybe 30 or 40 open textbooks that have been published across SUNY now. That has evolved, that project, to a kind of a new form of university-wide service called SUNY OER Services, which is a new entity hosted by one of our campuses to help support other campuses who want to launch OER initiatives. And one of the things that I worked on with that group last year was a task group that looked at creating a success framework for OER initiatives. So we created a rubric and outlined a process that campuses could go through to assess where they stand relative to what we think it takes to be successful with an OER initiative, and then to put a plan in place to accomplish the goals that they have set out for that. So that's been a little bit of an evolution, and the infrastructure provided now through SUNY OER Services and with that framework, I think is helping to provide, will help to provide some sustainability for the efforts that have been seeded through the grant program. Another component of that group, which was just mentioned, is the importance of professional development for faculty and for those who are supporting faculty to understand what does it mean, what does it take to be successful with OERs. And so working with our instructional designers and library professionals, we are putting in place some professional development opportunities for faculty now, to help them get started with OER. So, so there are several things that we have going on, but I think those are a few around what are we doing to help institutionalize and really scale the activities that we've seen grow within SUNY in terms of OER.
Thanks, Kim. And I think it's really important what you said about providing the infrastructure to allow people to be able to do this and do it well. Jerry, in regards to this question, there's actually a great question in the Q&A that I think you might be well suited to answer. So Matthew is asking, considering that Merlot has been around for 20 years, when do you think we're going to reach maybe a tipping point in OER awareness and usage in higher ed? What would be a metric to kind of know we got there?
Thanks, Erin, and thanks, Matthew. And I started typing in an answer, but I wanted to listen to Amy and Kim, so I was slow in getting it out. One, I think higher education is a pretty balkanized organization, so tipping point in higher education in general is not going to occur nationally. I think it's going to occur institution by institution. And it could be state by state too as well. Because when you begin to look at institutionalization, and Amy and Kim brought these issues up on the issues of policy in California, where we work with our legislators to actually put in legislation funding for open education resources with metrics of, and Amy brought this point out about how much money are you saving students to enable them to have access to the required course materials so they can succeed. And I think that value proposition of enabling access, and that's a key aspect that Kim has brought up, is that the cost of educational content can be a huge barrier for many of the students we are serving. So institutionalization is around how do you begin to integrate OER as a strategy for student success to improve retention rates, because students aren't dropping out because they have access to the material on the first day of class. The students are able to take more units per semester because the cost of textbooks don't prevent them from being less than a full-time student. And when you start moving to OER, you also have the digital availability and consequently the more media-rich resources that can really engage students. And that then begins to, how does the institution begin to bring in the technical infrastructure to enable the distribution of this open education resources in a much more effective way. And I'll finally tap into, Kim's point again, you have to develop the demand for open education resources. And that means, do people want it? And if you don't have professional development, if you don't have communication plans, if you don't have ways to support faculty adopting what they think they want for the learning outcomes that they want to achieve, it won't happen. And to enable that all to occur, your leadership on your campus is essential. Does your president, does your provost actually have, and in California, every campus has an affordable learning solutions initiative that they customize, they make it their own, and then the metrics, I'll say, right now is about how much cost savings, because politically and for legislators, they're interested in that cost issue. But of course, we're interested also in retention and students achieving successful graduation in a timely manner. So I hope that was helpful there.
Absolutely. I found myself nodding in agreement a lot. When you're talking about integrating OER as a success strategy and improving retention rates, we have to acknowledge that cost barrier. So our next question would really be more around accessibility then. So I'll go to Ina, and could you explain what your organization is doing to make open materials more accessible?
Well, it's from my university perspective, it's really a bottom-up approach. So we encourage early career researchers or students to open notebook science, to opening up their research, also failures in research, to do blogging, to participate in, yes, doing together in the classroom, but also with their other research, collaborative science, open science, and we initiated together with the German, where I'm also working in, the German National Library of Science and Technology, a method. So 2 years ago, a method for writing together. We did the first book sprint at our university, doing a living book together with colleagues of open science, and then also encouraging students to rewrite, to ask questions there, to do comments. And it was a little bit evolving like Wikipedia. And this project is very successful also in the overall, doing open education material in our university again. So this is somehow hand in hand, the library plus the university, and doing this kind of infrastructure, but also a very a bottom-up approach. If the students know that their output is appreciated from outside, and that their comments are really, that they are good, that they are that they are encouraged to do this, and to tell what they what they are doing then they are then they start by themselves after a certain years. So this is our experience, and it's a good setting here that there's also the library and the Open Science Lab really helping here with the whole network, Open Science Network, also Germany, national wide, also Europe-wide, and also worldwide, but especially the Wikimedia community who is helping us a lot. Another thing or aspect here is that we have infrastructures, for instance, like Wikimedia Commons, that there are infrastructure for reusing material that is, for instance, in journals, and we could reuse this in open educational material and have this like a commonly built infrastructure. And that's more or less the vision we have, and we also in our Wikimedia project. I don't know, I just paste the link here. That would be a great institutional and altogether.
Thanks, Ina. So you're encouraging people to open up their work, but you're also giving them the mechanisms which they could do that. So that's fantastic. Kim, what is happening with Open SUNY to make open resources more accessible?
Yeah, so this question for us at Open SUNY really brings together two major initiatives that we're trying to address and support in the near term. And that is, of course, supporting broader campus OER initiatives, but also ensuring the accessibility of online learning for students. So we have a really successful initiative out of the team that Erin is a member of here at Open SUNY, the Center for Online Teaching Excellence, and that initiative is called the OSCAR Rubric, and that is Open SUNY Course Quality Review Rubric, and we'll put the link in the chat for that so you can see it. But basically, it's a rubric that is intended for faculty and others who work with faculty to use in reviewing online courses to ensure that they meet sound instructional design standards. And as part of the rubric, we have elements that address both accessibility in online learning, as well as encouraging and promoting the use of open educational resources. So with this rubric, we're calling to the attention of individual faculty, and again, those who work with faculty, the importance of these issues, and providing indicators that will help them understand if their course is accessible, and if they're using OER resources, we'll address that accessibility with those resources. So it's a rubric that we make. Another example is it's an openly licensed asset that anybody can use and have access to, and we have more than I think about 2/3 of our campuses now who are using that rubric in the review and refresh of their online courses. So it's one thing to design a course from the get-go, but we have a lot of courses, as I'm sure many of you do, who are on the books and have been delivered for a while, and now we are basically asking campuses and faculty to go back and review their courses and refresh them using this rubric, which addresses many issues and of importance are both accessibility and the use of OERs.
Thank you, Kim. I did put the link to the OSCAR rubric in the chat.
Oh, great, thank you.
And Erin, if I could just jump in real quick on the definition of accessibility here, and I'd like to highlight really the 508 compliance. That is, how do you ensure all students, including those with disabilities, have access to the resources too as well? And in California, we have our project, a really cool project, the California Open Online Library for Education, and we actually have 52 courses with Open e-textbooks aligned with each course, and we've conducted accessibility evaluations using non-assistive technologies as well as assistive technologies, and we have reports for each one of those textbooks, because when you adopt a resource, you have to ensure all your students have equally effective access to those materials. And if you know ahead of time what the issues are, then you can plan for an equally effective alternative access to those materials if they are not 508 compliant. So in the chat, I put a link to the section of our website that has all the textbooks, and you'll see accessibility evaluation. It looks they're long reports, it's lots of details, but it should provide any instructor or a Center for Students with Disabilities information to ensure that they can help their students use those materials.
Perfect, thank you. Good points. At this point, I'm going to go to the Q&A, and I think maybe Amy, if this might be something that you could help us answer. Matthew is asking if there are good OER initiatives to compete with what he likes to call the homework as a service offered by commercial publishers, right? So the MyLabs, McGraw-Hill Connect, that sort of thing. What about ancillaries such as quiz question banks, slide decks, as those do play big time into faculty adoption of textbooks? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's a great question. I don't know if I could specifically tell you about resources, but I would certainly tell you like that searching through the OER Commons and other resource banks that our panelists represent is a good way to get started. We feel that one of the barriers still for the acceptance of OER is people may feel that the commercial publishers, traditional publishers, have a monopoly on some of the quality issues, and quality may still be a barrier for people, and as well as discoverability. So our efforts are really to make OER as discoverable as possible with enriched and structured metadata, and to Jerry's point, to make everything usable and personalizable. Others may find that the traditional publishers have not necessarily seen OER as something that offers benefits because of the way it can be personalized to the needs of all learners. There's a project that we've done for the last 3 years that is looking at learner preferences. How can a set of preferences, depending on the way that a particular user might want to use the interface, how the text appears, the color spectrum that they prefer to look at, things like that, that help them use all materials, can be part of the way that they access interfaces when looking for OER, and how resources themselves can be authored and remixed in really an OER native format so that they can be accessible in the degrees that we're talking about here. I think there's still a lot of challenges to make that happen. But I would encourage Matthew to search, and if they can't find, if he's not able to find those resources, we'd be happy to help him find them.
Absolutely, thank you. It is but the other thing along the lines of quality, Amy, that you mentioned was discoverability, and I think that that's really important to help educate people on how to find these resources. And then what do you do with it, and what can you do with it? Being able to remix and reuse, repurpose. Would any of our other panelists like to address that question?
I can jump in too as well, and agree with Amy as well. I think one of the strategies that we've worked on is how to get, you have to break the habit of people thinking I just have to live with the resources I've been provided by the publisher. And when you have an openly licensed material where you can remix, revise, reuse in all these different ways, you have to get them to think about, our strategy, we call them, think about a makeover strategy for instructional materials, right? You see all these TV shows about you have a house that isn't quite what you want, but you got $1,000, what are you gonna do to make it better? Well, think about resources. Open education resources enables you to customize and change the content to deliver what you want. And the key is going to be, how do you integrate it into your, whether it's your learning management system or your other enabling tools for student success, and really start empowering the faculty and instructional support staff to use open education resources to make things over so it really align much closer to the learning outcomes. Because I think if you're going to help faculty do the adoption side, you got to tie it into what's most important for them, and that's alignment with their teaching goals and the learning outcomes for those courses.
Mm-hmm. I'll just echo that, Jerry. I feel that rather than turning people towards what they're accustomed to, we really encourage them to find something that may be remixable or to start from scratch themselves, because once you gain those skills and the courage to start creating OER and putting it out there and getting feedback from your peers, it's only going to create something that can live on and be continuously improved in the future and really be of benefit for the greater community.
Well, I could also jump in and just think if everything, every little piece, you could gain credits for this. If if they are citable and the licenses are okay, then you instantly are encouraged as a researcher just to put on every little piece of what you have done, that could be useful material, like the thing with open data. I mean, it could be data that's useful for someone else. You put it online, or you put it up, you set it as open data, because someday you gain credit for this. And this is a way how you should be a change in the perception of opening up science. And I think the important aspect is that you gain credits for this via this citation and everything else, or just being mentioned in some way. So that's what I discover here in our professional surrounding.
And just one last kind of jump in here is that what we're finding, and I'll put a link in the chat around this, is that there are a whole set of other type of technology companies out there, instructional design companies, who will help you customize and create those resources. And when you begin with an open education resource, the cost of customization drops significantly, and then they can begin to do the makeover for you relatively efficiently. So, and I think it's, I forget whether it was Amy or Kim or someone, or also said around, you don't have to start from ground zero. That's the biggest thing to help this adoption process work.
Great, terrific insight. I think, Jerry, you really kind of touched on this a little bit. There are so many resources out there. So my next question for you is, how can open-focused organizations leverage each other? Let's have Kim maybe talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I always love when I get to do things like this with Jerry, because the Cal State system and their Affordable Learning Solutions project is actually the very first open oriented organization that we leveraged. So when we were jumpstarting our OER initiatives here, we linked with them, connected with them, and were able to basically learn from their experiences and put in place kind of an initial Affordable Learning Solutions initiative here at SUNY, which really connected us with the Merlot repository. Also, as part of that, I think part of what we learned is to kind of bring together and leverage the things that we were doing. So at the same time, we had started working with Coursera to launch some MOOC activities, and in turn, we were trying to help faculty think about how they could leverage the content from other MOOCs to bring those as open education resources into their courses. So that evolved to what I talked about earlier, which was the growth of our and the initiation of our Open SUNY textbook project, and now exists as a whole service area around OER services. And I'll just mention a couple other things that we're doing. So we're partnering with the University of Central Florida to provide their Blend Kit MOOC as a professional development opportunity for faculty here at SUNY who are interested in blended learning. We facilitate cohorts here with our campuses, and we are working with we're looking to partner with other organizations, both within our system and outside of the system, to enhance our offerings and services, and to you know, kind of collaborate with others just to strengthen what we're doing and contribute to this broader field. And I think that like-minded organizations often find it easy to collaborate, and that's certainly what we've found here at SUNY.
Thanks, Kim. Does anyone else have an example of partnerships or ways that you're leveraging the work of others in this area?
I'll jump in and I'll say Kim talked about how she leveraged what we're doing in California, and then we leverage all the stuff that she's doing, with all the open textbook that she's doing, and they have when you have a partner who looks at what you're doing and says, oh, we want to do it this way, and then we go, man, that's a great idea, and that community collaboration working in this area is just really I'll say, is a fuel for innovation. And we've done this, the services, we've also supported the University System of Georgia, Excelsior College is and we're doing stuff for the Southern University. So, because it's really inexpensive for me to create a derivative website of what we're doing and manage it within my framework than to have another institution recreate the whole technical infrastructure and the design strategy and all this other stuff. And then by me doing it, then I get to learn from all these other people that I don't have all the staff that Kim has over in the SUNY system to do all this stuff. So I get huge benefits back and forth. So just want to, and for the OER Commons, Merlot and OER Commons has been around together. And, I see what Amy and their team does, and I go, those are really good ideas. I'm sure they've looked at us too. And you see similarities because you begin to have more minds around how do we solve these problems and share these efforts. And that I think is very healthy and helpful for the open resources to open itself to a community collaboration.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Well said. I'm going to take us to kind of a little bit of some future thinking, if we could. Think about how you see open resources evolving 5 years from now into the future. What might your thoughts be around that? Where is this headed?
Well, we started with text years ago, but right now, like a normal PDF publication, it's definitely more than just text. It's connected data and text and code and other resources. So all linked together, that would be my vision of this. So publishing this whole collection, this resources together, and this kind of shareable resource that's individually citable, also video material, also citable as some minutes, with the DRIs, and code on GitHub, repository text, on MediaWiki framework, data Zenodo, all this, and with this encouraging also collaboration, and and this all the documents. They can be versioned, and they are kind of living documents. Maybe a layer of discoverability by text data mining, so not always providing proper metadata because no one has time to do this. And then it's proper licenses to be able to remix everything. That's very, I would encourage everyone like public domain or CC0, but no. And that's my vision of this, making that this information that you need, or this material is just there at your fingertips, and it should be really openly available, and no private company like protecting any rights. So that's very important. Also, that we could use this in our learning context, but also doing a transfer to the to companies, but it's also to work together to do a tech transfer or something like this. So it should be open. It should be possible to use all this material wherever, in any context.
Yeah, terrific. Amy, would you agree? Is your vision for where this is going different or the same?
Well, 5 years from now, I could tell you what I hope to see, and maybe what we may project out to see. I certainly hope to see that we don't have to keep explaining what OER is and why it's of benefit. And you see Jerry laughing. We have to do that 10 times a day. We want OER to be a given. And at least all public institutions, if not all institutions, are going to be publishing high value, high demand OER. And they really see that making an impact on cost and quality and access, OER is a piece of making that a top priority, rather than just claiming to value those criteria, but really putting OER in open practice as a central piece, and that there's buy-in and rewards for faculty to do so. Right now, there may really not be those workflows in place where faculty sees the benefit. Other than, college being free, which is, I guess, not going to happen in the US anytime soon, we really see OER as a piece of making it easier to get through college, and that there are learning benefits for students. It's greater student success when curriculum is personalized, and that teaching can be improved when instructors are more deeply involved in forming the material that fits their course. So I certainly would like to see that the role of librarians, which is often marginalized, is put at the centerpiece of this, and that librarians know how to use OER. I think 5 years that's entirely possible, that librarians are valued and brought up in the chain of decision making around curriculum choice and improvement, and that gets wrapped in with their choice of and availability of all open aspects, open data and open research, so that there is like a fully functioning ecosystem around open.
I like that term, ecosystem, really involving all of the stakeholders, and like you said, librarians. We're getting faculty on board now, and what are the resources that we already have that we could draw on? Jerry, you were nodding a bit with that.
Well, and I think just want to really emphasize a point that Amy just made, and I think Kim would do the same thing in SUNY around libraries. So in my day job, we have 23 libraries, and we procure about $30 million a year in educational content for all our systems in our unified library management system. And librarians, and much of it is digital, and our librarians have the expertise in the discovery process. They're called reference librarians. They've been doing this forever, right? They know how to manage collections. They know all about metadata. And then working with librarians to begin to expand their collections to the OER Commons, to the Merlots, to the open SUNY textbook collections, to all these other resources, and then provide that support directly for students as well as faculty to finding these open education resources. They also know all about the issues around copyright and getting them really skilled and trained in applying the Creative Commons licenses. And libraries are being transformed in fundamental ways, and I think it's a huge opportunity for the change that OER will have in finally having someone who owns it. Because right now, the institution really looks at OER as not really with a home itself, and I think libraries can be that home.
Great.
Well, it's definitely, I would second this, because it's definitely the point. That we are, this kind of project that we did with this Handbuch.io project, where the library is holding the expertise but also providing the ecosystem, or the system for doing open educational resources together. So, and then having this knowledge of licenses and metadata. So we already did this in 2014, starting here with this project, and now having this 5 textbooks here. And it was initially the idea that we really wanted to have the library together with the university context here. And it was a small start, but it worked quite well because of this expertise just being together there. So you just mentioned this, but I also felt that it was a good take-home message, or take-away message we got here by doing this project. It was a good start, for us at least.
If I could add just one project related to digital librarians and OER, we have an IMLS grant for 3 years to help elevate the role of librarians both at the K-12 and higher ed level, and instructing them and giving them the chance to create OER, put it out there, get peer feedback, and have it apply specifically with our partner, Granite State College in New Hampshire, towards a new school library certification that puts OER at the center, both in the courseware that the students take and as pre-service and in-service school librarians in New Hampshire, getting OER into the schools at the K-12 level. So that's an ecosystem in libraries that we would love to scale.
I could also chime in on this in that, again, I come from the online learning perspective, and what I can tell you is, as we have launched Open SUNY and really tried to influence the way that our campuses are thinking about the design of online courses and the use of OER materials, it really has been the libraries on our campuses who have come to the table to help drive a lot of that change and to be the resource and the support to our faculty. So I think that that has been important, and that just to come back to the question of how do we see OER evolving 5 years from now, to me, part of why those library professionals have been so critical in the work that's happened here at SUNY is because for faculty, when you talk about OER, sometimes if it's not something they're familiar with, it seems overwhelming, and how do I even get started, and how do I even find where those materials are? So one thing that I think would be great in the way that OERs evolve is that discoverability for faculty becomes just so easy for them, and it doesn't seem like I need help navigating and finding where the OERs are, or evaluating which ones are going to work in my setting, which ones are credible versus not. And so I think that improved discoverability and kind of comfortableness with the quality of OERs is an important piece of where I hope that will be. Again, I'm not from the library or OER community, but that's something I see as we try to really move this forward from the online learning perspective.
Great, thank you all. We have another question in the chat. I'll read to you. Discoverability is a big deal. We've been mentioning a lot about that. How close do you think we are to having a unified OER search engine that digs into all repertories and open access journals? Let's see, maybe Amy, you want to start us off with that? How close are we to having something like that?
Not that close. We're working every day on discoverability. We're working on formats for metadata, new tags and ways of describing material more efficiently. The formats and databases are just so different, and there's just more and more repositories coming up. I mean, one of the things is to sort of flip that question on its head, because a universal format would help us, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a single site. We're not asking that everyone come to our site as its destination, but that there's a way for queries to happen that may be within your institution because the metadata has been integrated into the learning management system that your institution is using. That the content and metadata is transportable and exportable and importable and moves in a fluid way from system to system, and that it's not housed in a single place. And those are some of the issues that we're looking at. And I just think it just needs more research and development for that to become efficient. But those are the kind of issues that we're looking at.
Other thoughts from the panel on where we're at with the repositories and how we're going to get there?
Yeah, that's not also. I would agree on this. It's a the question of metadata and how it could be transferred from one to one, but also just opening up everything, that, putting structured data about this information on the web, and it's somehow meaningful. And then you have described with the vocabulary that is up there already, like this linked or semantic web link open data idea, and then it could work. But I also guess it quite soon we would have very good text and data mining already, that you don't even need to really much. There's so much intelligence there, or this machine learning possibility, that you immediately get the author and the most important point, like you do already from abstracts, and then you have the metadata somehow there in this layer of it on the web, where you could really search all the repositories and everything that's over there. It's open education resource.
And I'll jump in with Jerry here. It's in about as I don't want to reveal too much too quick, but in about a month, Merlot will have, in working with Google, a number of strategies to do discovery across other OER collections and across the broader Google indexed. So there are looking at structured and unstructured metadata, and data is important. So in November at the OLC conference, the Online Learning Consortium conference, we're going to roll that capability out. But I think that the real key, and I think Amy put her finger on it, this is not about creating a single library anywhere. It's really around networking these resources, and to enable the other part of discovery is, who are you discovering for and what is their purpose? And because the variety of needs that people have, those discovery engines are going to have to be very complicated, or tailored to what particular people are. And I'll just say that aspect of having an all-powerful discovery, that's what, and we've been working a little bit with IBM Watson, right? That super intelligent tool to do those things for you. Or you go your app way to say, for a particular population of people, here's a specific application that will give you exactly what you want, right? I mean, Yelp is looking for restaurants, right? And they're doing it in a certain way. So I think there's going to be a variety of strategies to really improve those discovery tools, and I think people have also identified this isn't about discovery, the library separated from the learning environments or the teaching environments. That integration is going to be essential, and again, APIs are part of that process that will help make that work.
Great, thank you. I want to give you a few moments for some closing thoughts. We've talked a lot around the themes of access, of collaboration, and connection. What are some thoughts you could leave us with? Let's start with Kim, if we could.
Yeah, I guess I want to just focus on collaboration, because just in the case of preparing for and doing this session for NMC, I've become aware of things that I wasn't aware of. And I think that, by working together in this broader community, we can just help advance things so much more quickly than any of us could do on our own. So, I think that that's what faculty find when they are working with OERs, the value in the collaboration. I think our institutions are finding that as well. And I think those of us involved in leading these initiatives are seeing that. So collaboration at multiple levels, I think, is the way that we're going to continue to advance.
Thank you. Amy, some parting thoughts?
I'd certainly agree with Kim on collaboration. And we really try to support communities of practice to do this kind of work together. You don't have to do and author OER by yourself, or write your own textbook in the way that textbooks have been created in the past. There are ways to have very efficient structured workflows now, and shared tools and review processes and evaluations that colleges and institutions of any kind can take on to streamline the creation of OER and start to remove those barriers in the academic space, give faculty rewards for doing this. And it's not necessarily easy. Remixing, we didn't talk too much about. It's not easy. We have a project where we found that it was easier. People found it easier when they're first starting with OER to start from scratch, and that remixing actually took another level of expertise. So I think we're looking at the evolution and professional learning of those that really want to get deeper into this, to take the expertise they currently have in their core subject area and really feel that open is an answer for them to get deeper and more proficient in doing it. And just to touch on what Jerry's working on and for making things more discoverable, I think we have to work, with improving the tools, but we're also not trying to automate everything and replace people. And what users say about material and how it worked in the classroom is not something to automate. It's part of what makes a community of practice around OER really work. And so I would just say we're always looking for any users to contribute back towards the continuous improvement of OER, and that in itself is not something to automate.
Thank you. Ina, how about any parting thoughts from you?
Well, I can just second that this, again, what I already said, but maybe it's a mix. It's a bottom-up approach, but also a matter of policies, institutional ones, I said already, politics, funders, and it's a collaboration of stakeholders. So it's a very good, this library and institutional, and open is the answer for sure for the future.
Thank you. Jerry, quick parting thoughts?
Sure. And I'll just reinforce what everyone has said so far. And for me, the parting thought is stone soup, which is a fairy tale, a traditional folk tale, but it's where people who are used to hoarding now are, with some innovative change management, are encouraged to voluntarily share, and they created more than what anyone could have done before. And I think that aspect, is what Kim and Amy and Ina and you, Aaron, have all mentioned as to what has enabled OER to move forward. And I think some of the secret sauce that we add into the pot is going to be the Creative Commons licensing. How do we change people's understanding, and so everyone's doing those type of things. So that's it, with probably 30 seconds to go, and I'll stop there.
Thank
Beautiful
you, Jerry.
metaphor.
That is great. Alex, I'll turn it back to you at this time. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.
To wrap up today's program, I want to thank Aaron, Amy, Kim, Ina, and Jerry on behalf of the NMC for taking time to join today's discussion on openness in education. I also want to thank you for taking time to join us on this event. Participants, if you want more information about what you saw or heard today, let us know by contacting me directly at alex@nmc.org. To learn more about future NMC online programs and get involved in our community, please visit our website at nmc.org, like us on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter at nmc.org. We'll be sending out an announcement soon about our next program, which is going to be about cross-institution collaboration, so keep an eye open for that. With that, did have a question about recordings. Yes, this is being recorded, and we're going to get it edited, and anyone who is registered for this program will get a link to a survey and a video, archived video for this. So thank you for joining us today, and until next time, goodbye.